Okay, happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday! Woo-hoo. Okay, special service here on the occasion of our 29th birthday. Wow. It seems like 29 years ago. No, it's a blur. What we're actually celebrating is the 29th birthday, the 29th anniversary of the first time we opened our doors as Community Miracle Center. Actually, it was California Miracle Center at that time. And we had our first meeting, which was a Sunday service, because it was a Sunday. If you look back, 1987, March 1st was a Sunday. Now, we had been meeting in that space for over 2 years at that time, but as a different organization. So, you know, the actual birthday, it really was just a continuing, but that was when this entity, this business entity, this corporate entity, this church entity, named at that time California Miracle Center, existed and opened the doors. So that is what we celebrate. You know, in the beginning, we kind of let the birthdays just slide by. They didn't seem all that significant. Then as they piled on, they started to seem more significant, but we frequently just forgot about them. It would be like April and go, forgot about our birthday. But over the last couple of years, we've been remembering them and thinking about them. So 29, isn't that the Saturn return, 29? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, that's supposed to be significant. Maybe that's why we've had a lot of issues this past year. We're in the middle of our Saturn return. So we got a special service today. We've asked some of our longtime ministers, people who have been around a long time, who are ministers, ordained ministers of Community Miracle Center and supporting members of Community Miracle Center, to come up here and say a few words about what it means for them to be here and to be participating in this organization for as long as they have been participating. And so, the first minister I want to call up here is one of the first ministers we ordained in a big group that we ordained in 1990, on September 8th, 1990. So you see that's 26 years ago. And he is the only minister coming up here today that has a single-digit minister number. So he is minister number 6, ordained September 8th, 1990. Always a pleasure to have him here, always a pleasure to have him speak. And really for me, always a pleasure just to see you still involved after all these years. Reverend Tadosio Zamora. Yeah.
29 years. When I first got to the Community Miracle Center, I was at that time spiritually deprived. I didn't have no spiritual understanding because I was drinking and taking drugs during that time in those early years. LSD, everything you can imagine. But then I went to AA, got clean and sober, and I had to find more spiritual stuff, and I couldn't find it. But I go back to 1989 when I first saw this blue book. No, not the blue book of AA, but the other. And the blue book, I saw it was in one of the booths here at the Castro Fair. So I looked at the book, and at that time I was still drinking, and I looked at that book and I says, read a few, I said, this is nothing but a cult. And I threw it back at the guy. Says, I'll never read that book. But I think that was kind of a sign at that time, because the next year I was walking down Haight Street, and I was looking up the street, I'm looking at this building, and I saw the California Miracle Center. And I walked up, and I met Tony and Larry. and Larry scared me. But I was walking, I bought the book, and I started reading it. And I think it kind of changed my mind because I saw things differently. When I read the first things in the course, it made sense to me, I guess because I was sober and I wasn't looking at the other way. So I was very glad to start, and then they started the classes, and then I went to the classes, and then I went to the parties at Larry's house. Were fantastic, and I think I was ordained at Larry's house, and it was fantastic. And I'm very happy that I got involved at which is now called the Community Miracle Center, because I never knew that I would become a board member. I've been here for a while, and I just like the organization. I like what they accomplished, and we have places to go, like in Las Vegas. Those are the things I see that grow out of this Community Miracle Center, and I'm very happy to be part of it. So I thank you all for me being here and talking to you, because I love you all, because that's one thing I learned: unconditional love to all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Tedosio. Next person I'm calling up here, near and dear to all of us, was the 10th minister that we ordained at the Community Miracle Center. She's been involved ever since, also a member of our board of directors, teaches many of our classes, currently started teaching on a Course of Love class here on Wednesday evenings. As I said, the 10th minister, she was ordained on April 3rd, 1993. And let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Judy Youngins.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and happy birthday, CMC. Okay, you're 29 years old, and I've been around for 27 of those, so I've really seen some changes. And no, it does not seem like it was just yesterday. The person that came in here at first and who I thought I was is totally different than who I know I am now. And I'm very grateful for all of you and for Reverend Tony and Larry to keep this place open as a place where we could come and join together and teach and study A Course in Miracles. I attended a Mary Ann Williamson workshop at Joy Lake in the 80s. And I met Reverend Franz there. And I don't know what number Reverend Franz was in the order of being ordained. But he was a single man, and he was a straight man, and he told me about CMC in the Castro area. And I did not want to come to the gay part of San Francisco because I was a straight woman from Russian Hill and going all the way across town. And my real fear was, or concern, was that I wouldn't be accepted as a gay person, as a straight person. I was thinking that, as a straight person, thinking that it really was a gay organization. It was really a misperception, big time. But I talked a friend into coming with me one Sunday, and after Tony got done talking, they opened it up for discussion. And I went, oh my God, I can talk to people about this. Because I had studied by myself for a very long time. And even though I went to a few other classes, I never connected. But I really felt a connection here. And then I signed up for Course in Miracles 1, and the rest is history. But I really am glad that we have this brick and mortar building to come to. Not everyone does. I know some of my students really are sad they don't. They're grateful that they have CMC via phone conference calls and the internet, but still they kind of miss a place to go to. So congratulations, Reverend Tony, for keeping the place open for 29 years. It really is a feat. Well, back in the day, when CMC was called the California Miracle Center, Here's the t-shirt to prove it. It says, California Miracle Center, Teaching and Living A Course in Miracles. Back in the days, we used to go on miracle experience retreats in the Redwoods. We'd spend a weekend together and we'd have a guest speaker, and they were really fun because city kids got to go to the Redwoods. And between 1990 and 2006, we had 25 of those retreats. I made 24 of them. I only missed one because I had a wedding I needed to attend. But it really was that beginning, that closeness that we've all developed and have kept going. That's really the heart of CMC. In 1996, Tony had to change the website, expand it, so they decided to change the name to Community Miracle Center because we are now more international or national than just California based. And with that came a great spurt of growth for us, as of course it would. So now we're out of the Redwoods, right? We're out of the woods, and we've held 4 very successful conferences in San Francisco, 1 in Chicago and New York, and in April we're going to Vegas, baby. And that's really going to be fun. I mean, it really is, especially when so many people come together from all over the world. We have people coming from Japan. And it's going to be just a great melding and heart-opening experience. So if you haven't signed yet for Change Your Mind, Change the World, you can still do it. But besides growth in years and numbers, we've really expanded greatly. Because now, just from a room in San Francisco, we've gone to telephone classes. I have students from all over the United States. I even had one from Spain for a while until she was ordained. And now this is going to be on YouTube, so hello to everyone out there in YouTube land. And our ministerial program, very successful. We've ordained 89 ministers so far in our programs, which just shows that there are a lot of dedicated people out there that are willing to stick with the classes, stick with the workbook lessons, and do the work to be and accept the title of Minister of God, which the course asks us to do. We're going to have 6 more teachers of God ordained as ministers at the end of April, and I'm really proud to say that 4 of them are my students. They're coming from Colorado, Iowa, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. And I'm not sure who the other 2 are, but I'm really, we welcome them all, and keep April 24th open if you want to come to San Francisco and experience a wonderful ordination ceremony. So again, I just want to say happy birthday CMC, and invite all of us here and all of those on YouTube to join the Great Crusade. Our function is to save the world, and we do that by forgiveness, claiming happiness for ourselves, the joy and the peace that we found through our studies. So I'm really looking forward to an expanded spiritual maturity with all of you in the coming years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Judy. Okay, our next minister, it's really it's hard for me to believe that he has been around for, what does that make it, 21 years. I mean, it was 21 years since he was ordained, and our ordination program was 3 years long at that time. So that must mean that he's been around for 24 years at least, participating with the CMC. And he looks just as young and youthful as he did on that first day he came here. If you look at your program, you will see a picture of Reverend Rudy and Reverend Brad right before their ordination. Able to find that and scan that and put it here. Really, really great. So I'm very happy to call up our next minister. I'm really happy that he's going to be the featured musical act at the conference coming up in April, the Unauthorized Rolling Stones, with Reverend Rudy will be there. That's really terrific. He was the 15th minister that we ordained. We ordained him on November 4th, 1995 at Reverend Larry's mansion, as we used to call it, at the mansion. And let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Rudy Colombini.
I'm going to take it home and frame it. Thank you, Brad, for being part of my life.
And vice versa.
Yeah. In a nutshell, being here means searching for a better way. Let's all admit it. We all wanted a better way. And I think we got it, right? So I just want to do a little quickie on what it was like walking through the doors. There's a story of a sinner who used to be a winner. He enjoyed a life of promise and position. I am your Donald Trump. Kinda. Really? And the pressures of the office, and his socialite engagements, and his selfish wife's fanatical ambition. So he turned to the booze, and he got mixed up with a floozy, who led him to a life of indecision. The floozy made him spend his dough, left him lying on Skid Row. A drunken lag walked through the door. And that was me. But not really. No alcohol dependency, but still thinking that there was something out there that was going to make me happy. And that's why I came. That's why I worked with all you guys and still am working. I guess I want to thank, more than anything, Tony for being a guiding light, for being stable, for, I mean, come on, quarter-century guy, still hanging in there, got his thing, got his mission, got his purpose, floating through his own seasonal ups and downs, and being a great mentor to all of us. I brought my little prompter up here today. I think we all can be very happy, too, that we are involved in a spiritual discipline that in 40, 50 years has made it from a small, unknown book to the mouth of Nelson Mandela. And that must reinforce us. Like, hey, this is no small thing we do here at Community Miracle Center. So, all in all, my love is here. I'm looking towards the future. We have a great board. We're learning to work together. And I want to really push this one, but the sky is the limit. We finally got that groove that we could really take this and heal the hood. And the hood, it's just the hood, all of it, really. And thank you.
Yay.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Rudy. Okay, as I said on the program there, to the left of Reverend Rudy is Reverend Brad. And it's great that Reverend Brad is here. I think the influence that Reverend Brad has had on the Community Miracle Center gets a little overlooked, and I do like to mention it from time to time, because I mean, those beautiful angels that have always graced our wall, gazing at the orb of light that is the CMC and blessing us with their angelic presence. Those were commissioned and gifted to us and paid for by Reverend Brad. So thank you so much. I always smile when I look at them, and I really do think they're beautiful, and over the years I've really grown to just love those angels. Thank you. Reverend Brad also wrote our communion service, which we will do in a little while. That was something that Reverend Brad created and did. He was always, you know, pushing us to get more, I don't know, solid and rigorous and ritualistic in some way, but in a meaningful way. You know, really just moving us more towards being a real church. So I really thank him for that. It's so great that over the past few years he's been more involved than he was for a while. So the next minister that I would like to call up here, indeed, is the minister that got ordained with Reverend Rudy that day in November 4th, 1995, 21 years ago, Reverend Brad Patu.
Slowly but surely. Thank you, Reverend Tony. Those are very kind words, and what I'd like to do is share my own personal history. Reverend Tony gave you some highlights of it. Due to time constraints, I can only give you part one of my personal history with the CMC. Part two I'd like to give it some other time. In the late 1980s, I underwent a very difficult career transition from social service to the for-profit business sector. And the only marketable business skill I had was the ability to type. That's the one course or class I took in high school that was of any use looking back. At the time, computers were gradually entering business and offices, and I knew really nothing about them. And that greatly handicapped my job search. Luckily, I had a friend who also left social service to publish a magazine. Some of you might have heard of it. It was Magical Blend. The magazine's office was fully computerized. To help me gain computer skills, my friend offered me a job. Unfortunately, he could only pay minimum wage, but thankfully the Magical Blend's office was in the office of the Golden Gate Theater office in the Tenderloin. And so I could afford, albeit barely, to live and eat there. While working at the magazine, I heard of the book, A Course in Miracles. I didn't know much about it other than the title. And the title really intrigued me because at the time I really needed some miracles in my life. So I looked for the book at Field's Bookstore on Polk Street. It's a metaphysical bookstore, no longer there, but they still have an online store. And I found A Course in Miracles there, devoured the book from cover to cover. And it really helped me to discern my inner guidance from the fear generated by my ego. So with newly minted computer skills in hand, my inner guidance led me to a job as an administrative assistant for the San Francisco Sales and Support Office of Octel Communications, which was then a market leader in voice processing or voicemail equipment. I worked for the company for 11 years, and it was the best job I ever had, or one of the best, I should say. In the early 1990s, I moved from the Tenderloin to the Castro, and on one of my strolls through the Castro, I came upon the then California Miracle Center here on Market Street. It was the sidewalk sign that caught my eye. So I began attending service here. I began taking classes on the text workbook and manual for teachers. And on November 4th, as Reverend Tony pointed out or said, 1995, Reverend Rudy and I were ordained A Course in Miracles ministers in the home of Reverend Larry Bedini. Reverend Rudy, as was mentioned, is the 15th minister, and I'm the 16th. And I love the picture of us. We were so young and beautiful. And we're still beautiful. Oh, let's see. On May 10th, 1998, Jack Manchimelli and I, Jack used to come here with me. We were married in a commitment ceremony. At that time, there were legal same-sex marriages, but we had a commitment ceremony, and Reverend Tony officiated at that ceremony. And it took place in Reverend Larry's house. Reverend Larry's house was just wonderful. It was this, I call it a mansionette in Laurel Heights, just a gorgeous setting. Unfortunately, though, on August 7th, Jack died of AIDS-related causes. His funeral was held at Sullivan's, which is across the street, and the wake reception was held here at the center. I was blessed by the support of the Community Miracle Center then, and I continue to be supported by the CMC now, and I'm so grateful. And I'd like to give you part 2 of the story some other time. So, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Reverend Brad. Okay, the next minister I'm going to call up here, obviously somebody near and dear to my heart, a significant other of mine. I can be public about that. She took our classes, which I said at that time were 3-year classes, but she was actually on the 4-year plan. She resisted somewhat. Took her 4 years to get through the program. And Reverend Deuce Althea has kind of taken to the course, but sort of kicking and screaming her way through it. But she's, as you know, a great force here, a great demonstration of eternal youth here. I love it that she always opens up our conferences. She's the first person to speak at the conferences. And that always just gives me a smile and makes me feel wonderful. She was actually ordained, again at Reverend Larry's, but she worked it out so that she was ordained on her birthday. So she was ordained on November 17th, and the year was 1997, so I guess that's 19 years ago. I was actually ordained at that ceremony as well, because I had not been ordained by the Community Miracle Center. I had been ordained by the previous organization. And the board of directors at that time was gracious and blessed me with an ordination, saying that the classes that I had taught were equivalent to actually taking the program. And so then I could get ordained and say that I went through the same program. I was obviously in the classes with all those people. So I now have 2 ordinations, but I do have an ordination in the church that I serve as executive minister for. So I'm happy about that. And I was ordained, again, in that same service that Reverend Deuce Althea was ordained at. That was November 17th, 1997. Let's give a nice round of applause for our 21st minister, Reverend Deuce Althea Ramasir Singh.
Wow. It's great to be here. Thank you all for coming. Well, I'm not going to repeat the beginning. I, though, started at the healing circles. First Friday healing. That was the first time I came to the Miracle Center. And I can tell you that when I came, I had a lot of depressions. You know, life is ups, down. But once I got into the course, those depressions all went away. They flew. I don't know where they went to.
Yeah.
But I can tell you I had many gifts with the Community Miracle Center. After my ordination, within 2 weeks, I had to do a funeral. I didn't even know the person. But just things just come to you. And I've done at least 3 or 4 weddings. So, you know, every time you look around, there's another gift. And of course, I didn't expect those gifts, but they have all been wonderful. They have expanded me. And of course, that's what the Course in Miracles is trying to do, is to shift your mind and make you more aware of yourself and how you're thinking. So I feel really great for that. My other gift I got was Reverend Brad. Reverend Brad and I were roommates for 2 years. I didn't have a place to live, and Brad was alone.
Yeah.
We had this gorgeous apartment in Glen Park. Really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I have friends who still remember Brad, because Brad always wore garments when we had parties. He would wear some kind of spiritual garment, you know. We had little ceremonies. And people ask, what is he doing? So I feel really blessed. And then, of course, my lesson partner. I had a friend, Norma, who used to come, and we were lesson partners, and one day she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. Well, guess who I got? Alicia. Alicia is my lesson partner now for many, many years. And it's wonderful because in the morning I'm still not able to read. So she reads to me.
Oh.
So I feel so blessed that I have someone who understands and who's, you know, we're on the same wavelength. We do the lessons all the time. There are many other gifts I've gotten from the Miracle Center. Running to the post office, keeping a track of this, calling people to see if they'll speak. Just many, many things that I don't recall exactly, but also events. And now we have Thanksgiving at my apartment house, the Academy Award parties. So there are a lot of things that I feel there's no way my life would have expanded this much if I had gone on a solitary path of just my work and living. And of course, my wonderful relationship with Tony. That has gone very well. I'm happy to say. And I would say, when I first started here, you know the quote for the course said, would you rather be right or happy? But of course, I always wanted to be right. But it took some years, but I got it. Now I'd rather be happy. And I follow that one. And then my favorite thing that I do at the Miracle Center is Rudy Calambini. What do I do with Rudy? He's in my life. I love going to watch him sing and perform. But there's so many. There's Vincent, there's Peter. We have our fellowship, which is really wonderful because we plan all the events. We don't do it alone. I don't do it alone. But my biggest job, which I'm surprised because I'm at this age, where are you going to learn to do something new? I'm doing the banking. Barely count, but I'm beginning. I'm doing the banking. How did I get stuck? But I feel like, gosh, you know, I'm learning and I'm lucky. Because, you know, everybody says you're going to go downhill. No, I'm going up the hill. So I just want to say, I want to thank all of you for coming to the parties, to the Thanksgiving, and always helping us to celebrate and helping me to face and change and shift my perception of what life is about. Thanking the Miracle Center, Reverend Larry, Reverend Tony, Reverend Rudy, Reverend Peter, Reverend Vincent, Reverend Brad, all of the reverends, and of course all of the people who just come, Judy, Tedosio, Sue, you know, different we had another piano player some time ago, and oh, I love the drop-in class. I share that with Vincent. That is also one of my favorite things. I like seeing people. I wasn't hooked on the phone one. So just many things. I can be very grateful. I can't complain. There's no room for complaints. Thank you, Reverend Tony and Reverend Larry, for keeping us going, and I am so glad to celebrate 29 years.
Okay, so the final minister that we're going to bring up here to chat, it's sort of amusing as we were trying to decide who was going to speak. We thought we'd you know, cut it off with Reverend Dussault. Yeah, that was 19 years, and Reverend Peter said, "Hey, what about me?" And I looked at his ordination date and thought, it's only 14 years, Reverend Peter. You're just a young whippersnapper. You just haven't been around long enough yet. But he was the next in line, and so of course we love having Reverend Peter up here. Reverend Peter has been a great force at the Community Miracle Center. He is actually the Secretary of the Board of Directors. Oh, and I did want to say, the reason why you do the banking... The reason why Reverend Deuce Althea does the bookkeeping at the Community Miracle Center is because she is the treasurer of the Community Miracle Center. It is actually fitting. On all those government documents, you are listed as the treasurer. That's why you're doing the bookkeeping, that's why you're doing the bank deposits. Okay, back to Reverend Peter. Reverend Peter, the secretary of the Community Miracle Center, very active, one of our regular speakers, and also for the past 5 years, Reverend Peter Graham has been my apartment mate. And that kind of happened spontaneously, and nobody was planning that. I always thought when he came there that, I probably wouldn't have chosen Reverend Peter because I didn't think he'd stay around long enough. I thought, this man is used to being in live-in relationships. I don't really know how he's going to take to an apartment situation. It's probably just a transition for him. He had a partner that seemed to want him to live with him, so I figured it's just a matter of a couple of months before. But he asked, and he is with the Miracle Center, and he is a friend, so I said yes, reluctantly. Because I like more longevity. But he never moved. He's still there. This is great. He's a great person to live with. He's, I would have to say, because we live together, one of my best friends. If I'm having a downtime or a down moment, I can always go to Reverend Peter and talk to him. He's a great ear. He's a great presence at the Miracle Center. He's a great presence in our lives. He's a great presence for everyone I know that he comes in contact with. And even though he hasn't been around here very long, just 16, 18 years, we decided to give him a shot at the microphone anyway. Reverend Peter Graham.
Okay. Well, wow, everything that all the speakers have said is, has kind of echoed things that I want to say as well. I just, first of all, a great deal of gratitude to Reverend Tony and Reverend Larry, as other speakers have said, for establishing the California Miracle Center and then the Community Miracle Center, keeping it going all these years. And those of us that have been involved for a while know that it's been challenged at times, and there's been many challenges, and those two forces have been there keeping it going for all those years. So I have a great deal of gratitude for that. The other thing that strikes me is that I've actually lived in either Reverend Tony's home or Reverend Larry's home probably for like 10 of the 16 years that I've been here in San Francisco. Because when Reverend Vincent and I first moved in together, well, how long did we live? Maybe 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years, yeah. So
you provided me with housing. I better keep coming or I'm homeless. But my first theme really is gifts, the gratitude. That's my first thing when I think of the Community Miracle Center. Because my story with the Course in Miracles was that I was part of this organization called Dignity, which was a LGBT group for Catholics in Philadelphia. Well, it's national, but I was part of the Philadelphia chapter, and I was part of a group of folks that were spiritual minded, and one of them at one point gifted me Marianne Williamson's books, A Return to Love, and that was my first exposure to A Course in Miracles. And then I happened to be at this bookstore in Philadelphia on South Street, which is kind of a hip neighborhood in in Philadelphia. And there was a New Age bookstore called A Garland of Letters. And I used to go in there to buy books and get, look for kind of like cutting edge spiritual stuff. And I came across this conservatively designed book, I think. It was blue. It wasn't like the other ones were kind of hip and whatnot. And I started reading this, and I said, wow, like some of the ideas in here just seemed otherworldly, So I eventually read the book, and tried to do the lessons, and I got depressed because I couldn't figure out, you know, everything I see doesn't mean anything. What is that? You know, I didn't get it at all. So a friend of mine moved out to San Francisco, and I visited him. And he lived right down here on 17th and Noe, and I would walk the neighborhood just like Reverend Brad said. And I came upon the Community Miracle Center, and I was reading it, and I said to myself, if I ever move out here, I'm going to come here and study A Course in Miracles. And eventually, as circumstances would have it, I made a kind of a spiritual journey across the country after I lost my job in the Philadelphia area. And I got here in December of '99, and in January of 2000, I signed up for classes here at the Community Miracle Center. And I started taking the class with Reverend Larry, and I still didn't understand what the hell was inside the book. But we would, at that point, Reverend Alicia, Reverend Adrian, I know, were in the class. Reverend Larry led the class. And I just remember that Reverend Larry's soothing reading of the book just made, by the end of the class, I was kind of healed. You know, I kind of just felt relief just from that kind of experience. And so that was kind of my introduction to the Course in Miracles, and actually the Community Miracle Center. And one of the things that I really remember was that, you know, I was the kind of person that needed this kind of organization to learn the Course in Miracles, because I had been was raised Catholic, and the structure of kind of a church was what I needed to have in order to learn this discipline. Now, it's somewhat paradoxical, because I don't believe that we should turn A Course in Miracles into a religion. And yet at the same time, you know, for me, the church structure really works. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things that we kind of deal with, right? So, so I have a great deal of gratitude. And of course, over time, as many of you know, you get introduced to these ideas, you get introduced to these, the Course in Miracles concepts, healing, forgiveness, seeing the purpose of special relationships and transforming them with the Holy Spirit. You know, that was truly amazing, and it helped me, you know, grow and get through many different situations. And then the other thing about the Community Miracle Center that I would say, besides gratitude, in my experience, is inspiration. That I have been inspired by all of you here, all the people that come here on a regular basis, or however I encounter them, whether it's, as Reverend Dusalthea said, at a social event, whether it's at a class, whether when I was teaching a class, coming here for a service. And I was really thinking about that at service, that I probably now, I know Tony says I'm only, what, a baby or whatever, but I mean, I probably come to 35 to 40 services a year since the year 2000, you know, kind of regular. So how many ever that is, but I've left inspired. Well, that means I have to stop. Okay. I've left inspired, I would say 99.5% of the time that I've come here. Which means to me that my heart has been open when I've left here, and I've felt love, and I've radiated love. And, you know, that to me is our mission as a Community Miracle Center. That's what the Course in Miracles is really about, is to remove the blockages of love. And as we all know, we go out, we live our lives, and our egos, I think a lot of times, are kind of running the show. But the Course in Miracles, and particularly for me, Community Miracle Center, has inspired me to connect with my higher self and to be able to, you know, bring that message to those people in my life and in the world. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, I get to talk for a few minutes. I could talk a lot about the history. I think actually last year at our birthday service I really went through the history, so I don't really want to go there again. I had been just studying A Course in Miracles for many years before Reverend Larry and I formed the Community Miracle Center. I was involved with a couple other organizations really actively even before that. I didn't think I was young at the time, but I guess I probably was now considered young. But what I really want to do is really just look to the future. So in the near future, we've got this amazing conference coming up in Las Vegas. Check the enrollment numbers. Yesterday we are 435 enrolled right now, which is a good number. Some enrollments are coming in. The people who bought blocks of tickets are now filling those blocks, and so those numbers should go up. I do know that at the last minute there's always a handful of people, maybe 20, who don't show even though they're registered, but you know, just predicting we'll probably have 420 there, which will make this one of our most attended conferences. So that's just really amazing. We're in negotiation right now with the Holiday Inn in San Francisco on Van Ness to do a conference there in 2 years, in 2018. Happy to say that the two people who are going to be the co-presidents of the Foundation for Inner Peace have agreed to be presenters at that conference, Tam Morgan and Bob Rosenthal. Bob Rosenthal also wrote the book that we sell called From Plagues to Miracles. Tam Morgan is Judith Scutch Whitson's daughter. I've met with them, I met with Tam, and we've had a wonderful time and a really wonderful connection, and I've been emailing back and forth, and she was very happy to accept the invitation, and now I've communicated with Bob Rosenthal, and he is very happy to be participating. I've communicated with Alan Cohen, who is a very well-known spiritual author. He recently wrote the book called A Course in Miracles Made Easy. And for some reason, Alan Cohen has been a fan of mine for many years. He was really inspired by something I wrote years ago. I really appreciate that. He wrote the foreword to my book, After Enlightenment. I don't know how many books Alan has written, including The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and he was very involved with the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Yesterday I just heard back from him, so he has agreed to be a presenter at the 2018 conference in San Francisco. So that is great. I'm really looking forward to bringing the conferences back home after our little trek across the country to Chicago and New York and now Las Vegas. I think it's just amazing that we accomplished that. These conferences are amazing, and it's just terrific that we do that. What I see for Community Miracle Center is truly an organization that's going to exist on in perpetuity. It's way bigger than my little vanity organization. It's not really about Reverend Tony Ponicello. It wasn't certainly about Reverend Larry Bedini. As you see here from the 6 longtime ministers that came up here and spoke, we have a deep foundation and a very stable foundation. This is the house that is built upon concrete and stone. It's not built upon dirt and sticks. It's built upon bricks. And there is a very, very solid foundation to the Community Miracle Center, and a very deep managerial foundation to the Community Miracle Center. And I have no doubt that we are going to continue to do what we do, to keep studying and teaching and putting out there A Course in Miracles and some related teachings, and that we're going to be doing this for decades more than we already have been doing it. And I feel really blessed, actually, and I am really, really grateful to be in the position that I am in, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you, and certainly for all the people who've been participating for so long, for all the ministers who are up here, for the love and support that you give to me and to the organization, and your acceptance of me and my ups and downs. I am certainly not a perfect person, and I certainly get into my ego rather viciously sometimes. But the support that you have all given me through that has really, really meant the world to me. So think about Community Miracle Center on this day of our 29th birthday, and think about the future. and where we're going, what we're going to do, what we're going to build upon this house with the foundation of brick, and how we are going to be there as we have been, but even in greater ways, for A Course in Miracles students everywhere, and how we really are on the great crusade, and we are winning the crusade to heal our minds, heal the world, change our minds, change the world. Thank you.